some kids are going to be very direct and just ask you, hey teacher, why are you brown? Hello and welcome to Mailsphere. I'm really excited about this discussion because I have not come across anyone talking about race as it pertains to kids asking questions about race in a classroom. And this specifically pertains to kids in kindy and elementary schools, because I haven't worked with middle schoolers and I don't really want to. But I think this is something that's really important that we need to talk about so that we can be well informed as teachers and we can talk about this with our students in a way that we don't feel nervous, don't feel like we're under pressure, or just feel some type of way about it. Give the kids the information they need and are informing them about a topic that I think is overlooked. So yeah, let's get into this conversation. But I also did a lot of research from other Black ESL teachers, both male and female. I never heard anybody talk about race or how they dealt with race in the classroom, because this is something that's naturally going to be on your kid's mind and is going to come up in some way, shape, or form. Some of my kids have asked me very directly, why are you brown and I'm not? Some kids ask in a more indirect way because they're not sure how to bring it up. So some kids will put their arm up against mine and say, oh, we're different, and will just look at me waiting for me to respond. Some kids will draw me and the other teachers and ask what color should they color me and wait for me to respond. So I know that for some people, this is going to be a very uncomfortable topic, which is why I think we should talk about it. But sometimes when kids ask you questions, you don't exactly know what to say. I know the first time one of my kids asked me why I was a different color, and they just came out and just asked me. They said, Melissa teacher, you're brown and I'm peach. Why? And so I was very caught off guard because I don't know why, but this never entered into my thinking that the kids would ask a question like that. But if you think about it, South Korea is very homogenous. There are people in South Korea who will never see a Black person at all on TV, in any media or anything, even though there are some TV personalities, very famous Black people in the music industry here, very famous Black people in all sorts of spaces. There are some Korean people who will never see a Black person at all. Then there are some Korean people who will only ever see a Black person in print or on TV. They will never see a Black person in real life. That is a real fact. And the further you get away from Seoul or bigger cities in South Korea, the more likely that becomes. And if you are a first-time ESL teacher, you're probably not getting a position in Seoul or one of these bigger cities. You're probably getting closer to country areas or places that are smaller cities. So it's very common for a kid to have never seen a Black person at all. Like, why would they? There's a very small population or percentage of Black people here in South Korea. So you can imagine being curious as a kid as to why your teacher looks so different than you do. And then on top of that, their hair being different than yours. Because generally, when Black people teach in South Korea, they have one of two hairstyles. It's either braids or is a more relaxed style that looks similar to Korean people, but still texturally, it still looks different. So as a child, you're going to be curious why this person looks different than you. And I don't think that parents, because the parents know what the teachers look like before school starts, and I don't think really even administrations really think about this question, because they're like, oh, I just need a body, I got a teacher, and we're just going to throw them in and they're going to start teaching. A lot of schools here do not properly train their teachers. Now, there are some really great schools that have really great training programs, but there's an equal amount that don't really train their teachers. And if they do train their teachers, this is something that's really brought up. So with all of this, how do you go about answering these questions that the kids have? Some kids are going to be very direct and just ask you, hey teacher, why are you brown? And if you're getting this question for the first time, you can be very caught off guard, especially because this is probably one of the least things that enters your mind, if at all. I know when my kids asked me this, the first week, it's probably the third or fourth day, one of my kids came up to me and asked why I was brown. I was really caught off guard because my kids did not speak a lot of English. So the fact that they were able to communicate that to me in English, I was surprised. But two, again, I never thought that one of the kids was going to ask me this question. So for me, there are lots of ways to answer this question. I think you should answer it in a way where you feel comfortable, but is also appropriate for the age that you're talking to. So my kids are 6 and 7. And my answer to the question was, I am brown because my mom and my dad are brown and we're the same color as our parents. The kid looked at me and they thought about it for a second and they didn't say anything. And I said, your mom and your dad are peach. And so you are peach too, right? And they were like, yeah. And they shook their head. They felt okay with that answer and they walked off. So this tends to be my response to this question. And I've gotten this question in a lot of different ways. More recently, like I said, I've been teaching for half a year now, and almost all of my kids have asked me this question in some way, shape, or form. But one of the kids who hadn't mentioned it at all, we were sitting and talking, but he touched my arm and he rubbed it. And he said, teacher's brown. And I said, yes, teacher is brown. Yeah. He shook his head and then he asked me if my mom and dad were brown. And I said, yes. And I think it's really important for teachers, if you're brown like me, or have melanin in your skin, that you are aware this is something that kids are going to ask you. You should be prepared for it. You should have a response and not be caught off guard like I was. But I think it is something we need to talk about more. We want the students that we teach to have a more broad view of what people look like, not just skin color, but that we come in all shapes and sizes and not have such a narrow view of the world, or not necessarily narrow, but just look at people through the lens of what they're used to. We want to broaden their horizons and prepare them for seeing all different types of people. So having these discussions and having answers ready for these things is really important. I've had some kids in my class talk about people being fat, who I understand why they would think that person is fat, but the person is not fat. They're just like a little bit bigger than, what you would typically see or imagine when you think of Korean people. But the fact of the matter is, Korean people come in a lot of different shapes and sizes too. Some are really tall, some are really short. Some are really skinny, some are just as thick as some Black people I know. So like Korean people come in all shapes and sizes too, but that's just not what we typically see in the media. And I think as teachers, we should do our best to cultivate in our classrooms that people look different. That's okay. It's not just skin color. But I think the more that you talk about these things, like in your classroom, the better you're going to prepare your kids. And I know that a lot of the videos that I prepare for my class, I make sure that the people or the cartoon characters or whatever that I'm showing them are a wide representation of what people look like in real life. But it's really great to have these discussions and to think about this stuff before you start teaching, so you're not caught off guard. But I would love to know what you think. If you are a current ESL teacher, you're Black or brown like me, have you gotten this question, and what is your response or your answer to this question? And I would love to discuss this more, because thoughts on this, please drop them in the comments. Let's have a great like, subscribe, and share this with someone who is thinking about being an ESL teacher, or an ESL teacher you have as a friend. I'll see you guys in the next one.